Yeah, that's normally the sound of art. But was there any art to be found in the Ultimate Fighter Season 31, Episode 1 debut reveal? We're about to find that out right here. Welcome on in. This is your award-winning combat sports showcase, Morning Combat. I'm Brian Campbell, one half of your duo, alongside Luke Thomas every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on the Morning Combat YouTube channel. But look, this ain't your dad's Ultimate Fighter. This ain't 2005 Griffin Bonner 1. Dana White has fought to keep this series alive, and the stakes were certainly raised this year as Conor McGregor, 2 years removed from the octagon, coming back mentally and physically from a serious leg injury from the trilogy fight with Dustin Poirier, and he is poised for an upcoming showdown on pay-per-view opposite all-action lightweight Michael Chandler. It's a can't-miss fight. Officially, the fight not booked yet, by the way, which is interesting at best. Nothing else related to that to make us worry as fans outside of what exactly is going to happen with McGregor in the 6-month USADA pool. But here we are, high stakes in the Ultimate Fighter and a reason to get up off the bench. I've not been historically a big-time Ultimate Fighter watcher. Yes, I watched season 1. Yes, I went back years later to watch Rashad Evans win season 2. But it always took something buzzworthy to get me back. Junie Browning, right? Somebody dropping a deuce, upper decking a toilet bowl, or pissing in a sleeping bag, right? Drunken debauchery. Yes, I came back for Kimbo Slice. We all did. Yes, when Rampage ripped off the cardboard door to build to his pay-per-view fight with Rashad, we were all there front and center. And look, maybe I came back in 2014 for women's strawweights for historical purposes. But to me, this is a somewhat dated show. I love the premise at being twofold: building fighters of tomorrow, and in this case, building toward a must-see pay-per-view fight. I think the latter can still work. I've got questions about the former, as the Dana White Contender Series has seemed to really supplant this as the must-watch, or at least most important ingredient in finding those next fighters for the UFC. But I like the premise here, to be very honest with you, as I'm going to be in this breakdown and tell you, is this worth your time, right? Is this, what are we doing here? Season 31 has bantamweights and lightweights, but the key is half of them are prospects on the way up that we've largely not yet come to know. And the other half are retreads, second chances, a trope that they've done before in this show, but I like it. We've got bantamweights we've seen before to some degree, like Cody Gibson, Brad Katona, Timur Valiev. We've got lightweights like Kurt Hollabaugh, Austin Hubbard, Jason Knight, Hick Diaz, by the way, straight over from BKFC, of course, and Roosevelt Roberts, who played a very prominent role in this first episode. But, you know, it's been hard to stick with this show. There's so many tropes. It's still the same foundation that takes us back to like the Real World and Road Rules of the early 90s, where you put a bunch of strangers in the house, put a bunch of alcohol around, shut off the outside world, and find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. But this show, I don't believe, has properly evolved. But I'm fired up for the spectacle of the McGregor return. And if I'm going to praise one part about this show that I like the best in episode 1, it certainly was that moment of the coaches finally meeting after agreeing to do this. It took place in the UFC Apex. Yes, it was a staged event, but to get both fighters coming in there, sizing each other up, it's jovial, but it's also serious, right? Because if they're going to fight, and supposedly they are, then this all matters. This is all part of the build to the fight. And I like that we had Chandler talking a little bit of junk and saying, I'm surprised that you picked me as an opponent. I'm the hardest option you had. And by the way, you could flip that just the same and say, maybe Conor's got a style that's kryptonite potentially for Chandler, which is why we like this fight so much and can't wait to see who wins when they finally book it. But it also gave Conor McGregor a chance to joke. And I think for maybe one of the only times this episode, be that snarky guy who thinks and acts like he's bigger than everybody and saying, do you want to fight this fight at 185? And then before Chandler can really answer, he jumps in like he's, The Rock, and says, it doesn't matter what you say. You'll do what I say, paraphrasing, but you get the point. You got to see what you came for, which is that old magic of McGregor. But largely this episode 1 was to set the foundation, to build to the future. You didn't get a lot of crazy moments. You saw a little bit in the tease at the end of the episode, which I'll get to, but you didn't get alcohol debauchery. You got the stage set of the comeback angle and the redemption. And I thought that worked. And we also got a set a close-up of the opposite coaching personas and styles. Chandler seems born for this, right? It seems like he's put together all the things he likes about the great coaches he has had on the amateur and collegiate wrestling levels and into MMA to build this persona. He's hands-on right away. He's dressed in the tough outfit. He's connecting and resonating with the veterans, because how it played out was Connor won the opening coin flip to draft the teams. And with pools at 155 and 135 of old fighters and newer fighters, Connor chose first, taking the younger prospect lightweights. Chandler took the veterans on both sides. Connor ended up with the prospects at bantamweight as well. And I like that dichotomy, because Connor in a lot of ways is looking for a reinvention here in this coaching opportunity, looking, as he says, to immerse himself back into the sport, jump into the deep end of the pool, hands-on, to kind of just feel again on a foundational level the original reason why he got into this, for loving the fight game. Can that go away when you're a billionaire, when you're all over the headlines and you're this famous? It probably can. So that's the pull in watching, is seeing how that will work with Connor. But while Chandler seems to be salt of the earth, hands-on with these guys, we're getting a hands-on Connor. The question is, how focused is he? How much is he actually into this? Because we're also seeing a Connor dressed to the T's in the tightest possible plaid suits. I mean, he's got his own clothing line. He looks great in them, but it does look a little bit too tight, almost a Vince McMahon comical level, as he looks very muscle bound walking around. And I get that it's fresh off of Philbig, the Roadhouse, reboot. And, he had to cut down the weight there that he put on and bulking up, and we'll see what happens with USADA. But although Connor's hands-on and he made his fighters spar on like the first second of the first day, he's either dressed in suits, or oddly enough, he's dressed in the official UFC Venom fight shorts, which I thought was weird. Like, did he not pack any, practice gear? Is this not some sort of like suit, like in weddings, right? We always say that it's superstition. The groom can't see the bride's dress before the big day. Shouldn't it be like some level of superstition that Connor wouldn't wear the actual fight gear in a practice? It's like in middle school when kids would get their first rec basketball uniform at practice and wear it to school the next day until they got made fun of out the door. I don't know, something just fell off about it. Maybe I'm being hypercritical there. But we got to see their extended coaching teams that they brought with them. And look, good to see Ryan Bader back in the Apex. Yes, he's the Bellator heavyweight champion, but he had won season 8 of The Ultimate Fighter. He had a great UFC run, and he's back in there alongside, Robert Drysdale, striking coach Jason Strout, who's got the pigtails or the braids, whatever you want to call them, and Greg Jones, wrestling coach, not mentioned in this, but is on the Wikipedia page for Team Chandler. Team McGregor, on the other hand, it's SBG Ireland. You know them, you love them. John Kavanagh, Owen Roddy, boxing coach Phil Sutcliffe, and manager Audie Attar making the rounds as well. The big theme, as I mentioned, Dana White's back, of course, and he's doing a lot of screaming. All of his confessional interviews, a lot of times they have him say the generic stuff that moves segments along. We'll find out which guy is the tougher one. Dana, you're yelling a lot, but I'm not going to clown you. You fought to keep the show alive, and to some degree, I think it's worth it here as we enter season 31. But you got the close-ups from a few of these fighters who are getting second chances. How about Kurt Hollabaugh? A guy that fought in Strikeforce, by the way. I had to look it up. Had 2 UFC runs already. Is 0-4 in the octagon. Had a Dana White Contender Series win, recently turned to a no contest when he used an illegal IV. He's 36, and he's giving you those crusty veteran quotes of, I think I could finish all these guys in the first round. That was interesting to see. I think he adds an interesting dynamic in how they're trying to frame him here. Same with Brad Katona. He's 31 years old. He won Tough 27, but he trains with Conor McGregor in real life at SBG Ireland, yet he's fighting here for Team Chandler. And he had the great quote of, people want to know where my allegiance lies. My allegiance lies with Brad Katona. So I love to see that for a guy that went 2-2 in the UFC, but lost his last 2, including a fight against Merab Dvalishvili. Got cut, but he's 4-0 since then. He won the bantamweight title under the Brave FC banner there. So interesting how they're framing these guys. But Coach Connor's got them sparring hard right away. He's even getting into the sparring with them. And then we get to the fight matchmaking scenes. They book 4 fights, but the one that we cared about for this episode comes down to Roosevelt Roberts at lightweight, Team Chandler, against Conor McGregor's pick, Nate Jennerman. Connor's got a phoner during their stare down after being picked, which I only saw him from the waist up, but that shows you the intensity that he's bringing to this. That sort of rabid manic energy that was kind of buffering up throughout his multiple appearances in these episodes. Connor also picked Lee Hammond, who's his teammate from SBG. And of course, we did see some controversy heading into the season that Connor brought members of his own team and bumped out fighters that were already given spots and were already prepared for the show. I guess membership has its privileges in that regard, but Hollowball is going to fight him, and Hollowball and Hammond had a hell of a stare down that could set the stage for some fireworks moving forward. But you got the pre-fight elements you expected. And if this is an old school trope to show the fighters, sadly talking about how much they miss their family, look, it still works. It's why the Contender show was like so wildly popular some 15, 20 years ago. It does kind of still work here because Nate Jennerman is a guy who's showing home videos from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, getting up at 4:30 to load the docks at UPS part-time. He's with Rufus Sport, though. He's 16-5 overall with 13 submissions. He fought for the LFA title and lost, sat out 2 years with injury. So even though he's considered a prospect, he's actually older than Roosevelt Roberts. He's got a story. He's crying just looking at a picture of his wife and kids sitting in the Tough House. You can connect with that. You get that. On the flip side, you got Roosevelt Roberts, who admits he went 4-4 in the UFC, but got stopped in his last 2 fights. And he doesn't think he took the sport seriously enough. He took it for granted being in there. He didn't really believe in himself. He lost faith in himself as a fighter, and it led to his exit. He said he hit mental rock bottom. They played up the build to him hoping a victory here could help him find the money to move from California back to Florida to be with his kids after breaking up with their mother. So you got the personal, I mean, you got him holding up his cracked cell phone doing FaceTimes with his kids. It's like, that's what my cell phone looks like. I can connect with that. It just so happens that I'm ridiculously clumsy, but you get the quote from Robert saying that Jennerman's probably thinks this is an easy one for him, and that pisses me off. I'm going to knock him out for that. Well, 8 seconds in, it turns out that's exactly what Roosevelt Roberts did. And you got the dichotomy on fight night, which I thought that fight day, they built it up properly. There was some intensity and drama. You had Chandler wearing the coach's outfit and sitting alongside confidently, but you had Connor, who skipped the weigh-in, by the way, and got ripped by Chandler, arriving in a Ferrari or some sort of sports car, sliding in, wearing the tight suits to the fights and kind of just strolling around in the apex in there. But he didn't have much time to stroll because 8 seconds in, Roberts lands a 1-2. And he gets the very quick, almost flash knockout. You see Jennerman crying afterwards. They certainly told the story well of what this means to him. And you did have Connor, by the way, right before that knockout, screaming, "Aim for his nose, wherever his nose is, throw it," which was interesting advice. It was almost like an overexcitedly drunken dad, coaching from the stands in Little League. But it was a big win for Roosevelt Roberts, and it was a fun way to kick it off. Dana was excited. Roberts jumped on the cage and tried to, apologize to Dana how his run ended, but he certainly gets a lift to come back here. And you get the tease for the rest of the season. We got Islam Makhachev stopping by. We got Connor dropping somebody on his own team with a body shot during sparring. We got Connor drinking proper 12 in the house with the competitors. And we've got the big push scene that's been thrown around on social media. Connor pushing Chandler after they talk trash in the cage, and Dana running around trying to jump in and break it up, yelling, "Get the F out of my way." That was humorous to me. That does show you the tease that there's stuff to come. Will there be enough per episode to keep us intrigued? I hope so. If I have to grade this 1 out of 10, and I'm going to be critical all year, you know that, I'm actually gonna reach here and give it a 7. It wasn't an overly great episode, but it built the foundation. There's going to have to be things throughout the season that hook us, to make us really want to see this pay-per-view, to make us really feel like we're learning things about where Conor McGregor is mentally, physically, as a coach here, trying here. I like how they set that foundation. 7 feels high. It wasn't overly entertaining, but it got me to care a bit, care about the stories of some of these guys, care about what this might look like moving forward. Yeah, I'm in for now. I got questions, though. Are they going to land this plane correctly? Which direction do we go from here? Is it repetitive, which led a lot of us to stop watching? Or can this season be a, shot in the arm, just as I'm sure the UFC's business model hopes the return of Conor will be? I think they did spell out the start of what their angles and storylines are going to be. We're going to find out where Conor McGregor's at. Episode 1, he's there, but I don't know. Something seemed off. Something seemed just a little bit off about Connor. But to be fair, that's what this coaching opportunity is for him, the chance to relight that fire. And I think it's going to take time. And so I'm going to be on this journey with you. 7 out of 10 for episode 1. Is it worth your time? Look, if you got this far in the video, I think it's worth your time to watch the first episode of any season, just to see what the lay of the land is. The lay of the land here is interesting, of course, bumped up by the reality that Conor McGregor's there, but let's see what we got. I'm happy to be back after so many seasons. Tough, I'm here for you. Season 1, season 31, episode 1 in the books. You can check out Morning Combat every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday here on the Morning Combat channel. But that's about all for now. Your boy BC checking out. Enjoy the season. Let's hope we get this fight book soon. We out. That's the truth. It's over.